Hello and welcome to Granada Reports.
Yeah, good evening. Here's what's coming up on tonight's programme.
The teenager accused of the Southport stabbings again refuses to speak in court. Not guilty pleas to all charges are entered on his behalf.
When your 13-year-old child is hooked on the party drug ketamine, a terrified mum says the dealers are just waiting to pounce on anyone vulnerable.
And they use that broken relationship, or what they feel is a crack in that relationship, to get in there, to manipulate the situation. And once they're in, it's like a virus.
The unexpected sting in the tail for the WASPI women hit by changes to the pension age. We speak to three sisters who feel the new government's let them down.
40-30. I guess, I've no idea. Now we keep scoring, I'm playing.
What Jason Manford did next, why the entertainer doesn't want us to end up anywhere without a paddle.
And we have some rain pushing through overnight tonight, but tomorrow looks set to turn drier into the afternoon. I'll have all of the details later in the programme.
So please do stay with us. But first tonight, the teenager accused of killing 3 girls in Southport this summer has had not guilty pleas entered on his behalf after he appeared in court.
Yeah, Axel Rudder-Cabana, who's now 18 and from Banks in Lancashire, failed to speak throughout today's hearing at Liverpool Crown Court.
Our correspondent Victoria Grimes is there for us this evening. And Victoria, this isn't the first time the defendant stayed silent, is it?
No, that's right, Gamal. At previous hearings, he hasn't said a word, and today was no different. Rudder-Cabana appeared via video link from Belmarsh Prison. He didn't cover his face as he often does. Instead, he sat in his grey sweatshirt. But again, he didn't speak. He was asked twice to confirm his name. Both times he failed to reply. He was asked if he could hear proceedings, and it was a prison officer who was with him who confirmed that the audio could be heard there in the room. He also failed to respond when he was asked to enter pleas for all 16 of the charges that he faces. Judge Mr Justice Goose instructed that not guilty pleas to each charge should be entered on his behalf. Now, Rudder-Cabana is charged with the murders of 7-year-old Elsie Stankham, BB King, who was 6, and 9-year-old Alice De Silva Aguirre. They all died following an attack on a Taylor Swift-themed dance class at the Heart Space in Southport in July. He also faces 10 charges of attempted murder, a charge of possession of a knife, production of ricin, and possession of information likely to be useful to a person committing or preparing to commit an act of terrorism. Now, throughout the hearing, Rudder-Cabana remained seated. It lasted for about 25 minutes, and throughout that time he mainly looked straight ahead, occasionally glancing around the room and swaying from side to side.
And Victoria, there were several people in court, weren't there, who were directly affected by the events in Southport?
Yeah, there were about 15 people in the courtroom today, including the families of some of those who lost their loved ones. There were more people in an annex next door. We heard today confirmation that his trial will take place on the 20th of January. That's when it will begin next year, and it's expected to last for around 4 weeks.
Victoria Grimes at Liverpool Crown Court, thanks so much.
Well, a report looking at the police response to the widespread disorder which followed the stabbings in Southport found that most forces were unprepared.
Yeah, the review also found police failed to recognise the significance of a number of events leading up to the riots. It said lessons should have been learned from the incidents last year, including the riot outside a hotel housing asylum seekers in Knowsley.
The intelligence used by policing, and policing will accept this, it wasn't good enough for the situation. So there were holes in that intelligence. They couldn't properly get a grip on where the disorder was going to be, what the levels would be, and there's certainly some significant learning for policing moving forward from that.
Well, next tonight, once they're in, it's like a virus. The words of one mother to describe the drug dealers supplying ketamine, a horse tranquilizer, to her 13-year-old child.
Yes, the woman who lives in the northwest and whose identity we've protected says children like hers are being influenced and exposed to things far beyond their understanding.
Academics from Manchester's Metropolitan University are warning that taking ketamine is like Russian roulette.
We'll be talking to a drug rehab expert after the second of Emma Sweeney's special report, which contains some distressing details.
It's really clear that people in the community know who's supplying these drugs.
The saddest things in it all is the child's potential drifting away.
And it doesn't matter how much you love them, because their love for the drug and their love for their peers tends to be more than their respect and their love for you, and it overpowers everything.
Ketamine, a one-time party drug now in the hands of kids as young as 13. Some say it's a national crisis and one that's growing. We've protected this mother's real identity. Her child's addicted. And this is a story that is echoed right throughout our region.
And it doesn't matter what background you come from. It doesn't matter how much you love your child. It doesn't matter if you wrap them in cotton wool every day. There will be a situation that happens in the home that will send your child out of that door, whether it be something as simple as you argue about the gravy being too lumpy one day, the odd socks come out the washing machine, you've asked them to tidy the bedroom and they're not happy with it. It will send them out one day in a bad mood, and that can be enough to push them into the arms of these people. And they use that broken relationship, or what they feel is a crack in that relationship, to get in there, to manipulate the situation. And once they're in, it's like a virus.
There will be some people looking at this, some parents, who might think it's the parents' fault, like, can't you get a grip of your child? But it isn't as easy, is it, as that?
You can say till you're blue in the face, you know, this is not a path that you need to be going down. And I say to my child constantly, you know, you can be somebody better than this, but they're children, you know, they still believe in Santa. They're being influenced and they're being exposed to things far, far above what they're capable of understanding.
The problem is it's just far too easy for young people to get their hands on things like cannabis and ketamine. I spoke to one person, they told me they got theirs through an older sibling. Another told me they got theirs through an older boyfriend. But the thing is this, even if young people don't have access through those means, they do have social media, and just 1 or 2 clicks on certain apps, they can have drugs delivered straight to their front doors. 2 academics at Manchester's Metropolitan University have recently released a report on the use of ketamine in Greater Manchester. Not only do they want to understand why young people are using it, they also regularly test drugs here to find out exactly what's in them. And there's some worrying developments. So, Ollie, to you first of all, you've got some samples of ketamine here from GMP. You're testing it just to see how pure it is?
Yes, we are going to determine the purity of the samples, but there's a concern about the adulteration of ketamine with another tranquilizer called xylazine. And we've got these testing strips which can give us an indication of whether xylazine is present or not in samples.
Well, as you get on with that, I'm going to turn to you, Rob. You both did this report together. What was it that you found in terms of young people and why they're turning to ketamine?
They're using it to self-medicate anxiety. Those who are using it daily quite often had adverse childhood experiences and childhood trauma, and they're self-medicating that. And young people are also using it as something just to chill out and put a full stop at the end of the day in the same way that more traditionally they would have used substances like alcohol and cannabis.
Clearly very worrying. I want to turn back to you, Ollie. You've completed this experiment now. What have you found?
So in the case of this sample on the left, you can see that it's got 2 lines, which is indicating a negative result for xylazine in this sample of ketamine. The one on the right, however, has got just a single line, and that's an indication that xylazine is present.
How worrying is it that you found this other drug within ketamine?
Well, it is of significant worry due to the fact that the concentration of xylazine that we've found is quite high. That is a worrying development in this field. People just are playing Russian roulette when they are taking this sample.
In Burnley, Father Alex Frost has become so worried about the number of youngsters using the drug that he's recently set up a mother's support group. The problem, he says, demands a multi-agency response.
I think there is a real desire to make headway in resolving this issue, but there's a long way to go, and there's a lot of things to do, educational, physical, mental. There's a lot of work to do, and I hope that the people who are doing what they can provide and change things around.
The local police here insist they're on the front foot when it comes to tackling drugs, but they say they need the public's help.
Absolutely, we have a grip on it. We are receiving intelligence from the community. We would like to receive more, and it's really clear that people in the community know who's supplying these drugs and who is giving it to our children. So I'd urge, if people know that information, to report that to us.
Do you have any hope for the future?
There will be a time where they'll look back and they'll go, do you know what? Why did I put them through that? And until that time comes, you just have to try and keep them as safe as possible.
Emma Sweeney reported in the second of two really powerful special reports about the dangers of addiction to ketamine. Well, joining us now is Martin Preston, who's the Chief Executive of an addiction rehab clinic in Cheshire. Martin, what are you seeing? How much of an issue is this? How worried should parents be?
We're seeing a huge spike in admissions relating to ketamine, and what we're seeing that we weren't experiencing previously is that ketamine is the primary reason why people are seeking treatment with us. So several years ago, somebody might come to us with alcohol dependency or cocaine dependency, and they might reference ketamine or cannabis or MDMA in terms of recreational use. Now it's becoming the primary reason why people are coming to stay with us.
The mum in Emma's report is clearly at her wit's end. What would you say to parents? What advice would you give parents who are right now terrified that their kids might be taking ketamine?
I would say that it's important to confront their children about what is happening, but to do so in the right way. Addiction is a healthcare issue and it absolutely can be treated. So if you're out there and you're worried that your son or your daughter has become addicted to ketamine, do some research, educate yourself about addiction, about treatment options, and then speak to them in a very disarming, non-confrontational, compassionate way.
I mean, in Emma's report tonight, we heard that, you know, taking ketamine is like Russian roulette. You just don't know what's in it. Would you say that's quite an accurate description?
I would say so. I think that's true of illegal substances. If illegal substances are being bought on the street or acquired on the dark web or even bought on social media, people do not know what they're getting. It's not unusual that illegal substances are, they're not pure, they're cut or laced with other substances, either to bulk them out or alter the effects.
Is there hope out there? Because I guess the concern for many people is that once you're on a drug like ketamine, you go down a rabbit hole and it's increasingly harder to come back up to the surface.
There absolutely is hope and recovery is possible. We've worked with lots of people, about 1,000 people over the last 4 years, all of whom we've helped grow beyond addiction. I myself am in recovery, so there's a wonderful life on offer for people at the point where they make that very courageous, very humble decision to hold their hands up and seek professional help.
So any parents watching this who might be worried about their young person, or anyone, you know, who's maybe in the midst of that addiction themselves, what advice would you say to them? What should the first steps be?
The first step should be to do some research, find out what treatment options are available, and there's so much help out there for people that are struggling with addiction. So educate yourself and then speak with your son or your daughter about what's happening for them. it's a painful drama for everyone who's involved. So I would say try if you can not to get angry or frustrated by the behaviour. If they've become addicted, they themselves are hurting. You know, it's a really difficult thing to live with. Let them know that help is available and that you will support them.
Okay, wise and important words. Martin, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, next, and cast your minds back to before Labour were in power, when as leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer had promised to support the so-called WASPI women.
Well, tonight we hear from 3 sisters from Cleveleys who say they feel betrayed after he withdrew his support for those born in the 1950s affected by changes to the state pension.
Well, the government says full compensation would cost the country billions, which we simply can't afford.
Our political correspondent Leisha McNally now reports.
Susan, Mary and Norma say all the government's delivered this Christmas is a massive disappointment. The sisters have spent years fighting for their peers, hoping for compensation for the way their pension age was changed, a hope suddenly dashed.
They just want us to die, to go quietly and die. We've been going to demonstrations in London and demonstrating in the cold and the rain. You know, we're doing it because we want to defend the weak. We met women there that have had to sell their homes where they've lived all their lives. They've had to sell their possessions.
These 3 are part of the WASPI women. Those born in the 1950s who on the cusp of retirement were sent letters telling them they'd have to wait longer than expected to receive their state pensions. The idea was to bring them in line with the retirement age for men, but many say they didn't have enough time to financially plan or look for more age-appropriate work.
Just think getting to 66 and finding out, oh no, you're now not getting that till you're 73, 74. How would they feel about that?
I was a carer and I was caring for people, hoisting people in and out of bed. And I have had my own problems with arthritis, and I started to wonder who was the carer and who was the cared for.
The pension age was officially increased in the 2010s, but WASPI campaigners say that 3.8 million people were not properly warned, demanding compensation of £10,000 per person. This year, an independent watchdog did recommend payments of between £1,000 and nearly £3,000, but now the government has said there will be no money at all, saying the changes did not cause financial loss.
We looked in full at the Ombudsman recommendations, and they said that around 90% of women did know that these changes were coming, and as Chancellor I have to account for every penny of taxpayers' money spent. I didn't judge that it would be the best use of taxpayers' money to pay an expensive compensation bill for something that most people knew was happening.
But another thing most people knew was happening was a Labour victory at the last general election. And while compensation was never a manifesto promise, it has left a political problem for senior MPs who supported the WASPI women in opposition, but are now staying silent in government. A blow the Conservatives were keen to land on the MP for Ashton-under-Lyne.
The Deputy Prime Minister said Conservatives were stealing their pensions. She promised to compensate them in full. Another broken promise.
Not everyone in Labour is towing the party line, and one Liverpool MP has called for a vote.
The noise in Parliament was the sound of jaws dropping. And obviously we were elected as a government to change, and I just think it undermines democracy what happened yesterday, and it undermines trust.
But back in Blackpool, the sisters say they're tired of political push and pull, which has left a generation of women caught in the middle. Leisha McNally, ITV News.
Yes, the story will definitely be returning to in 2025.
Yeah, time now for the sport. And Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim has been talking about Marcus Rashford's future, and David's here. What's he been saying, David?
Yeah, he's been responding to an interview where Rashford hinted about leaving, saying he was ready for a new challenge, while Amorim says he's keen that the forward stays, despite dropping him for the Manchester derby.
To take the best of Marcus Rashford as the players. So I don't talk about the future, I just talk about the present. We are better with Marcus Rashford, and that's simple. And we try different things to push Marcus to the best level that he's shown in the past. This kind of club needs big talent, and he's a big talent. So we just need to perform at the highest level, and that is my focus. I just want to help Marcus.
To tonight's action now, Liverpool continue their defence of the EFL Cup at Southampton.
For Liverpool to be fighting for every trophy and to be for a long time in every cup, to go all easy, an easy road to the final.
Well, in last night's EFL Trophy, Blackpool and Aston Villa's under-21 set a new record for the most penalties taken in a shootout in English professional football. Well, the game finished 1-1, which took the tie to pens. Incredibly, it got to 17-all before Blackpool's Jordan Lawrence-Gabriel stepped up for the second time in the shootout. Sadly, he couldn't repeat his earlier success and hit the post as Villa won this epic shootout 18-17. Meanwhile, what a night it was for Atherton's Olympic 800-metre champion Keely Hodgkinson, who was crowned Sports Personality of the Year. Warrington's dart sensation Luke Littler finished runner-up, also took home the Young Personality of the Year. Elsewhere, Keely's coaches Trevor Painter and Jenny Meadows won Coach of the Year, while Wigan Warriors won Team of the Year, and the Manx missile Sir Mark Cavendish was given the Lifetime Achievement Award. Yes, well done to all of them. Well, next to the star of screen and stage, sharing his love for the world's fastest growing sport, Jason Manford has set himself an ambitious target of introducing 1 million children to the game of padel over the next 10 years. Well, he began that mission today by inviting school children to a session in Manchester, and I went along as well.
So now you can start thinking a bit tactically. Yeah.
Tips from the top, only not from a sporting star, but a showbiz one.
Imagine a piece of string between the two of you.
Comedian and actor Jason Manford swapped the stage and screen for a paddle court today to pass on his love for the game to school children in Manchester. Well, Jason, here we are in the centre court. We've got the net, we've got the rackets.
Yeah.
Explain to me, what on earth is paddle?
What is paddle tennis? Well, it's sort of a cross between tennis and squash. So whereas tennis obviously is on a much bigger court, without these glass surrounds, paddle is played in fours, so you play it in doubles, so it's a very sociable game.
And you love this as well, don't
I'm
you?
obsessed with it, and I'm not one of nature's sporty people. And someone said to me, it's great that you're doing so much for paddle, Jace, because when an ex-sports player plays paddle, it doesn't inspire people, he says, but when you play it, people think, well, if he can play it, anyone can play it. I think he meant it as a compliment.
A backhanded compliment,
yes,
there we
quite
go.
Right, yeah, quite very good. 40-30. I've no idea.
Jason has been obsessed with paddle ever since he started playing on holiday in Spain.
40 quid for a court.
To break down the barriers and open up the sport to youngsters, he's joined up with the Lawn Tennis Association to give kids from 8 local secondary schools the chance to play.
We want it to be a sport that's the people's sport, that everyone can play and everyone feels involved in. So I've just set this ambition. In the next 10 years, I want to try and get 1 million kids to play paddle tennis. I've started with 80. Today.
Good start, you've got to start somewhere.
You've got to start somewhere. So we've got 80 today and tomorrow, and hopefully, already a couple of these are like, oh, I like this, so fingers crossed.
The LTA will be offering free rackets and return sessions to these schools and their students in the hope that they come back for more. How have you found playing paddle today?
It's fun because it's not an easy sport, but when you get used to playing it, it's actually fun. Yeah.
When someone said to you, we're going to take you along to play paddle, what on earth did you think?
I thought it was squash, where just one person hits it off the wall, but I had to search or watch some videos, but yeah, it's different.
You say you play badminton, so how on earth was it adjusting to paddle?
It's hard because the racket's only a lot longer.
You enjoy it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And what was it like having Jason Manford give you a few tips and pointers?
Amazing.
Was he any good?
No. I'm joking, yeah, he's pretty good.
Paddle continues to grow at a rapid rate in this country, and anyone wanting to find their nearest court can do so on the LTA website.
We're seeing that demand's really outstripping the supply at the moment. It's a great opportunity to grow the sport, take it to new audiences and new communities, and the interest is just beyond what our expectations.
Not even performing in 2 pantos a day will stop Jason from playing. However, some cheeky elves and a pot of filler almost did. Your elf on the shelf.
Yeah, he just
got a little bit. Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
you're going to be able to play now, or is that you
I'll be
done?
all right. I've managed to fix it, thankfully. So yeah, we saw a bit of polyfiller. Spoil.
Those naughty elves.
They're a nightmare, those elves. They really are. Well played, guys.
From a nightmare to a dream for Jason, who hopes to inspire a new generation of paddle players. Yeah, well done to Jason. We've been trying to do the maths in the studio, haven't we? So it started with 80 today. He wants to get 1 million by 10 years. So how many? I can't do the maths. I'll leave that over to you guys.
Go on, come on.
999,920.
But hang on.
I believe you.
You missed off the biggest kid of all, David.
It took us the duration of that report to get that figure. And we're not even sure if it's right. Here's Louise.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there, good evening. We had scattered showers and sunny spells through today. It's going to remain rather changeable over the next couple of days. Sunshine and showers through tomorrow as well, but it will feel noticeably cooler if you're out and about doing any last minute Christmas shopping. We're starting to draw in a northwesterly air feed, so it really will take the edge off the temperatures. Now, taking a look at the pressure sequence, we had a low pressure system push through. It's now moved off to the northeast. We do have a brief ridge settling things for a time tonight, but we have further outbreaks of rain feeding through in the overnight period, with brisk northwesterly winds blowing in tomorrow, quite strong around coastal areas. Quite a lot of rain around tonight, some heavy downpours expected, but as we move through the early hours, becoming more showery and fragmented in nature. 1 or 2 wintry showers in the mix there. Brisk winds around the coast, with temperatures holding up between 2 and 4 degrees Celsius, so it should stay frost-free for most of us. Tomorrow gets off to a cool, chilly but bright start. Further scattered showers continuing to move in for a time. Again, 1 or 2 wintry showers in the mix, brightening up into the afternoon. Winds remaining fairly brisk that will take the edge off the temperature. Highs of 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, so it will feel quite cool if you factor in that wind chill. We could see some frost forming through tomorrow evening as well. Looking ahead then for the next couple of days, cloudy with scattered showers through Friday, again remaining fairly breezy. The winds will really start to pick up again through Saturday, quite strong over the hills and higher ground around the Pennines. Temperatures slightly above average, 8 or 9 degrees Celsius over the weekend, with further showers and breezy conditions pushing through on Sunday.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
So what's that number?
Don't ask me, we haven't got enough time.
We'll see you later. 999,900.